How's it, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Pueo, the camera, and me. Let me do my ritual. Let me take off my mask, because we're all vaccinated. Let me take off my shades, because my eyes are vaccinated too. I'm sitting here with my coconut girl. I'm very excited for this episode. Like we promised you on Kahilu TV that we would bring the most interesting and provocative and wonderful people that are part of this Aina, Moku o Keawe. And I'm excited to introduce you to my next guest. And we thought we'd be right here on this Hali'i Lauhala and have some of our Aina family right here on the Papa and share with you this Ike, or this knowledge, and this mana'o, or these thoughts coming straight from the land to share with you. Today, a most interesting Renaissance man. And I really enjoy his company and his ideas and the knowledge that he's acquired for so many years, being on the Aina and the ocean, and a huge product of Moku o Keawe. So without further ado, okay, kick back, relax, and may I please introduce to you Mr. Rick Rocker.
Hey.
Hey.
Aloha.
How's it?
So,
How are you, brother?
I'm good. I'm not used to doing these things, but we'll see how it comes out.
Yeah.
I originally came to Hawaii in 1968, and I had come for a 3-week vacation. And 2 days before I was going to leave, I got arrested by the police on Little Beach, McKenna, which has become a world-renowned nude beach. And I was arrested for a charge called common nuisance. And I was naked on the beach.
Oh.
And I got arrested with this guy whose name is Kaimana, who became my lifelong best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up going to the court in Paia, and the judge, you got to remember, this is 1968, this is 9 years after statehood. The judge denied us all our constitutional rights, denied us the right to have an attorney represent us, denied us the right to bring witnesses in front of the court, denied us the right to bring precedent cases in front of the court, and eventually denied us the right to speak and summarily threw us in jail for 60 days.
Wow. It was like a virgin state of mind.
It was definitely different. And when we got to jail, I had taken this case to the media, and the American Civil Liberties Union on Oahu read about it, and they flew over on our 4th day in jail, took us out of jail, took us back into the court system, and ended up fighting our case to the Supreme Court for 1.5 years. And they paid our bail money, and the two of us were let go, and we had no money. We couldn't leave the island, and we had any idea how long our case would take to figure out. So we decided we'd start living together, and the first thing we decided we would do is we would stop using money, because we didn't have any. And we decided it would be easier to stop using it than getting it. And so that was the first.
Yeah.
This guy and I made a bunch of commitments.
No, that's
And that
what
was,
you call a sustainable concept.
that was a sustainable commitment, and we didn't touch U.S. currency for 3.5 years.
Wow.
This wasn't like a little weekend jaunt. This was a lifestyle.
You're
And
all in.
We were all in.
Committed.
And when we decided what we were going to eat, because we had no money, we basically said that we would only eat what we could gather with our bare hands,
Mm-hmm.
eat in its unadulterated form,
Mhm.
uncooked, unseasoned, and uncombined,
Whoa.
and enjoy it. And if you apply that to nature,
Mm-hmm.
you basically end up with fruit, because other things aren't like that.
Yeah.
At one point I sat on the side of the ocean trying to catch a fish with my bare hand, and I finally succeeded and caught one, and I threw it in my mouth the way a bear would throw a fish in its mouth.
Never taste that good.
And did not taste that good,
Yeah.
and I spit it out. And so we
Fruits.
basically learned as we went along. We weren't very akamai when we got here. Actually, we were both city boys. We didn't know anything. And slowly but surely we learned how to do things and we studied the animals. We basically said we don't want to be like people, we want to be like animals. And I, at the end of this whole experience, wrote a book called Man the Animal, which is a story of this 3.5-year experience in the wilderness. We decided that we wanted to find a place where people still lived in the traditional old style, in the real old style.
So during those days, is that when you were like journal what you were gonna write,
No.
or it just was all in your
All
head?
in my head. We had
All in your head.
no possessions, no pen, no paper, no nothing.
You just knew what, when it came time to write it down in your book, like that's
this
what
is
you was gonna say.
indelibly written in my head.
Yeah, just like me. Just
And,
like
yeah, like yours.
yeah. It's
And so,
inside there.
We eventually decide that since Kaimana doesn't have a kid, he'll get on a plane and he'll go out into the world and he'll find paradise.
Yeah.
So he takes off. And a couple weeks later, he sends a letter back and he says, I found it, come. And so we get on an airplane on Air Micronesia, which services all the small islands in the South Pacific. We fly in, and Ponape has 5 districts. There's no roads. It has one little quasi-city, Colonia, where the dirt strip airport is. And as we're flying in and circling the airport, there's all these people fishing outside the airport. And at least 50% of the trees that we're surveying are either breadfruit or coconut trees. And this island is emitting this energy, this powerful energy of food and substance. And so I lived with these people, and I became basically the village fisherman because I love to spear fish. And one day I was out spearing fish with Sidden, and we were on this canoe, and these canoes, unlike the Hawaiian canoes, which are made of plywood and have a flat back so you can put an outrigger on it, these are dugout canoes that you chop a tree down and with an adze you make yourself a canoe. And Sidden and I are in this canoe, and it's pouring rain. And Sidden is, we're both there bailing this canoe out with coconuts. And Sidden looks at me and he goes, Panape sakanakan, kato sakanakan. By the way, I learned their language, which was a very easy language to learn. And Panape sakanakan, kato sakanakan means Panape is no good, rain is no good. And the two of us are laughing our heads off, and the sun stops. The rain stops and the sun comes out, and it's brilliantly sunny. And Sidden stands up and he looks at me and he goes, I'm a savage. I'm a savage. And I looked at Sidden, and in his language I said to him, Sidden, you're the most civilized man I've ever met on the entirety of my life. I said, the people who call you savages, they're the real savages. They have no respect for life. They have no respect for each other. They have no respect. And Sidden looked at me and he said, you know, it's funny. We know how much you love us, Rick. It's written on your face. He said, but you've never met a real Ponapean. He said, my dad was the real deal. He said, my father grew so much food that giving it away to all his relatives, to all his neighbors, he still couldn't give away all that he grew. So he would take his food and he would put it in the river at this one place where this tall grass grew. It was a place where no one could see who went there or who left there. So no one could see who went to take this food. And he said, my father never wanted to know who took his food. He never wanted anybody to feel a debt of gratitude to him. He never wanted anyone to say thank you. And Sidden looked at me and he said, if I give you something, I want you to say thank you. That makes me half a man. Makes me half of my father. And so these were the people that I learned from. Ponapeans had 3 customs that were involved with eating and that I thought made their society so wonderful. The first custom was you were never allowed to eat alone. So you could never go home and eat alone. You had to eat with somebody. 2, you always had to share whatever you had with whoever you were eating with. And 3, You could never walk past anybody carrying food without offering them some. So if you had fish, you had to offer them some. If
Right.
you had ulu, you had to offer them some. And it made for a very delightful lifestyle.
Yeah. Amazing, huh?
They were super wonderful people. And the foods that I want to showcase are the foods of the South Pacific Island people. And I came up with this acronym called UKUKU, UKUKU, and it stands for ulu, which is breadfruit.
Yeah. You see that, brother?
And this one,
This is good.
these are unbelievably delicious if you know how to cook them,
Yeah.
which unfortunately
This
a
is
lot of
a
people don't.
master cooker of the ulu.
This is kalo, which
Yeah.
Brother
Well, the
Noland
Hawaiians
knows more
know,
than-
you know, the
more than
kalo,
enough
how
about.
important. Yeah, this is.
This is uala, sweet potato, which Brother Noland did on one of these shows, the
Yeah.
sweet potato patches out in Kohala. That
Yeah,
was
up
a
there in
beautiful
Hawaii.
show.
Yeah.
This is cassava. Back there, that sticky looking tree is cassava, tapioca, and underneath it is the root of the tapioca. And people, when they think of tapioca pearls. And I always say that tapioca pearls are to tapioca what white sugar is to sugar cane.
Yeah.
It's a highly processed food plant, and it has really nothing to do with tapioca.
Yeah, it's also a master tapioca maker.
And this,
Some of that too.
and this is my favorite. This is uhi, and this is just, in Ponape, this was the number one food. Everything else was second to this.
I am.
And this, in Ponape, they would have competitions, and they would grow these things the size of my leg. And they would take these things, they would dig these things out, they would be that deep in the ground, the length of my leg. They would dig them out with a little stick, because Lord forbid you should scrape this. If you scrape it, it's no good. You can't take it to the competition.
Yeah.
And they would dig these things up, dig all around these things, take a piece of bamboo around the top, lash it in with the bark of the hau tree, and they would lift it. Two guys would lift the thing out of the ground, put it on their shoulders, and then they'd walk 3 miles through the wilderness with no trails, which you cannot scratch these plants to get to the competition, which is at some kamatip at somebody's place.
So very sacred then.
This is number one sacred to
Number
these
one
people.
sacred.
And this is the plant that probably made me more inspired than anything to do this, because this plant is almost being forgotten in Hawaii. And this was a canoe plant. This was one of the original plants brought here by the settlers to these islands. And so the thing that was fabulous about these people was they didn't, when I came to Hawaii in '68, very few people had jobs. I lived in South Kona, and basically people picked a bag of coffee
Right.
in the morning,
They're
made
still
$10
trying to figure it out, yeah? Still
yeah,
trying
and
to
they
figure
had,
out.
they ate, then they'd walk down to the beach, catch a couple of fish,
Yeah.
come home, cook a pot of rice, and have rice and fish for dinner, eat some mangoes on the way down the beach, eat some oranges on the way back up from the beach, and life was good. Now in Hawaii, it seems almost every family, both the husband and the wife have to work,
Right.
and it's very difficult for people here today. And what was beautiful about Ponape was Ponape wasn't a sustenance economy. It was a feasting economy. They had so much food, it was a joke. And these people got to spend time with their families,
Right.
with their children, and they got to have wonderful lives.
Because food wasn't a problem, right?
It was not
Right.
a problem
Right.
for them.
So they got more time to spend doing things with their kids and stuff.
And so my fantasy is that we can create a mini-series on each of these different food plants and bring an indigenous person who grew up with these food plants to tell their story about these plants and why they're important to them. This, kalo, cassava, uala, uhi, UKUKU. This is what makes for food security in the tropics. You could plant this whole patch in an hour. This will feed you for a month. 1 hour of work. That's what it's all about. It's not about this being hard. It's about staying focused and staying focused on the small things, because sustainability starts small. And that's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah. Pass that
with
knowledge
Chuck
on.
on Kahilu Theater TV.
Yeah.
And if I have any message to get across on anything, it's the motto that I will make with this program is sustainability starts small. Sustainability doesn't start by you buying 3 acres of land and planting an orchard. Sustainability starts by you getting 1 kalo huli and sticking it in the ground and watching it grow and learning from it.
Yeah.
And I'll just end it with this last thing, is that in Hawaiian, I'm going to, at some point later, walk over and show you this, but there's the main corm of the kalo, and then around the corm of the kalo come the little babies, the oha. And in Hawaiian, to pluralize a word, you add na at the end, and you end up with
ohana.
ohana.
Right. Well, I really like your concept, Rick, too, of like, you don't need to buy 5 acres, 10 acres, and just all of a sudden you want to be a farmer. It's like, I like, the time that we hang out together too. I like how you the least maintenance is cool too. It was one thing that I learned being up here in Waimea also is, when you ask somebody that grow, just throw them on the ground.
Right.
Yeah, and you say that in the same way, like all these plants that you grow around your place, the perimeter of your garden it didn't take a lot of hard work as far as maintenance. Yeah, it's like you let it because the knowledge of the plant. Yeah.
There's definitely some work, and it's not like farming doesn't take some work. It does take work, but the reality is,
it's almost like living within your means.
Yeah, and just don't go crazy. Do a little at a time. And there are certain plants, and these are those certain plants that just want to grow. These are not plants that you have to be go to UH and get a master's degree in ag to be able to grow these plants.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a cute little story. The woman who I want to do for the ulu section is a woman named Angie, and Angie is a walking museum, a walking encyclopedia of knowledge.
Yeah.
This woman, she comes from this island where it was totally primitive. She grew up totally primitive. And she's just this wonderful person. She was telling me, I was over her house the other day, and she was telling me how this Pohnpeian had come over to her house and wanted to eat some cassava, some tapioca. And she asked Angie if she had any cassava. And Angie said, no, I don't got any growing. And the Pohnpeian woman said, no, I just walked up to your house. I walked past. You have some growing right over there. And Angie said, I just threw those branches down there. I just threw them out. And the Pohnpeian lady said, come, let's go look. And they went over there and they dug up the stuff, and they had a bunch of food for them to make a huge meal.
Yeah.
These plants want to grow.
Yeah.
These are the plants for the tropics. These are not the plants for California, but they are the plants for Hawai'i Nei.
Oh, I love the fact that we can walk the perimeter of your place too, and it's so abundant. And your concept, I think it's a very important concept for everybody to remember, that about the sharing part. The three things that pillars that you said. When you run into somebody, you always give them something. These simple concepts are so important when you want to talk about. You use all those buzzwords, sustainable and organic and all that stuff. I mean, it's very, very simple. Yeah. And, I think we live in a very complicated world today.
Way too complicated.
Yeah. So, this is going to be so valuable for our children. Yeah. And if, as adults, you can, be inspired by this concept that Rick's going to share with everybody, and the series as well, that in a small way, everybody can become a part of it and contribute to, because it's like he's saying, start small.
Just
Start
get
small.
a
Start with
tapioca
one.
plant, and I'll provide tapioca plants to anybody who wants to plant them.
Yeah.
And I'll figure out how to get kalo huli to anybody who
Yeah.
wants them.
Yeah.
And we got to just start, all of us.
Yes. What's the coolest thing about Rick too is when you go to his house and you spend time, when it's time to leave, oh, he's always got this box. He's just got the same concept, but just within his own little ahopua. He's got enough food to share with everybody that comes to visit and leaves it, you know. And that's really cool. And some of those plants that he gives to, or fruits and vegetables, you can replant. Yeah.
Very easily.
Yeah, you can replant because, again, they're not like high maintenance kind.
Actually, all of these except this one can be replanted. You can plant the eyes off the sweet potato. This is the planting piece that you plant off the uhi. You cut this off and you stick that back in the ground. Kalo has little oha that are coming out that I knocked off here because I'm eating this one. But if you took that little tiny thing out and you put it in water, this would turn into a kalo plant. These plants want to grow.
Yeah.
They're very easy,
Yeah.
and they're just very easy to grow, and they're wonderful plants, and if you know, it's like funny. Hawaii imports 90+% of the food we eat. This is about as absurd as absurd can be. I mean, we live on one of the most fertile places on the planet Earth, and yet we've turned our back on the aina and go chasing after kala and think that that's going to give us happiness, and it's not. This is what's going to give us
Well, I'm
happiness.
happy that I'm part of the 10%. That you and me have. Yeah, that you know, understand the concept, yeah, and want it to work for our kekia, for our kamali'i, to learn this knowledge too, you know, so that you're not dependent, you know, or enslaved by money.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, thinking that you got to go to a store and you know, get that product when even the products that are in the stores are like the finished product of what came, like how you were describing.
These are the fuel foods, the foods that give you strength to be able to work, to be able to go out. These are the foods that give you the strength to be able to go out and plant these foods. And on top of it all, most people are not familiar. I would say that almost no one in the audience is familiar with uhi.
Yeah.
This plant is so delicious. You know, it's not fancy. It's not delicious like a strawberry shortcake. You know, it's delicious like mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
But it's delicious. And almost all of these plants are enhanced when they're cooked with coconut milk. And this is a coconut scraper.
Right.
And so this is how you...
See our cup. See how we're drinking.
And these are coconuts.
Yes, coconuts, and you can use this cup again. Yeah, toast. Yeah, that was awesome, Rick. The original Gatorade.
Right on.
Yeah, tastes good.
Good for
You know,
you.
yeah, you're not making rubbish.
And
Yeah.
the rubbish you make turns back into the earth to
Earth,
fertilize
yeah.
the earth.
And this can be used for many, many other things, man. This thing.
Yeah.
I can strip this bark and it can become tinder for fire. I mean, just amazing. I made a bowl out of coconut too. You know, like just trying all the different things that you can do. Yeah, yeah. So everybody, you guys gotta try this stuff, and you gotta this knowledge that Rick's series on Kahilu TV. I mean, it's my pleasure to have you here first to launch it and you know, help you to get started with sharing to everybody out there in Kahilu TV, you know, this knowledge that it can't be lost. It has to be passed down. Yeah.
And you're a perfect person.
Yeah,
to
this
be
is
the
awesome.
one to doing this.
Yes.
Yes. Beginning, I have a 15,000 square foot house lot. I call it my little kuleana, and I tried to plant much of what I eat on this property. And so starting right here, this is lemongrass. I make tea every morning. I make fresh ginger, lemongrass, mint, and honey tea, all from right here. These are asparagus, as you can see. And the way an asparagus works is you see all these little things? Each one of these is actually a branch. And so an asparagus is an uncurled fern. So it's almost like warabi. And how warabi is all twisted up. But this is, instead of being twisted, it's in a thing. But you can actually see, if you look close at this, I'm letting it get old. I'm going to pick this as soon as you guys leave.
That's the one to eat already.
This is ready to eat, and so is this. And then all of this is asparagus.
So does this all fall off?
This will all just grow. What happens is I let it grow, and here are these. See, these are coming out in here, but I'm not harvesting those because I'm just letting things grow. And what I do is I started. Actually, the way this worked is at the beginning of the pandemic, 2 years ago, I started by harvesting the very top of this patch, and I cut out a section about this big. And then I'll harvest this section for 2 months, and then I'll let it grow back, and I'll cut the next section. And if you look at this, this is the asparagus seeding. And so the trade winds blow this way. And what happens is, as this almost all of this asparagus has planted itself. I planted this top patch, and then it just planted itself as it goes on down. I just harvest.
Using nature to do the work. Awesome.
This was a tree that was taken to the dump. I saved it from the dump, and it's bearing its first good fruits this year. So if you come up here, this is a honey tangerine, having its first fruits this year. All these trees are like their first fruits. This is a mini Olivangelo, my favorite of all citrus, and it's putting out its first fruits.
When do you know it's ready?
When they're orange.
Orange.
Yeah. See all the passion fruit?
The mother lode.
What is that? Passion fruit, livercoy. So we try to use up as much of the land as we can. And then coming up here, in Thai cooking, this is called bai makut. And it's what they use in everything. And the fruits, I use as shampoo. So I take these fruits when they're ripe, and I wash my hair with them.
Where's that fruit from again?
This is Thai. This is a short, fat cooking banana that the Hawaiians, this is a canoe plant that was brought over by the Hawaiians. More apple bananas, because apple bananas are just bloody bulletproof. That's an apple stalk. So back here I've got 5 peach trees, because peach trees will actually grow in Waimea and I get a decent peach crop. That's a persimmon tree I just planted in the middle down there. This is called merengue or calamangai, as the Filipinos call it, which is a super nutritious leaf plant. This is a kahilu, this is a charwell, and I'm trying to do something that I've never seen anybody do before, which is to grow avocados sideways instead of vertically. So it's called atelier in French. And the goal, because I don't have much land, is to try to get a gazillion avocados growing here without them growing there. So we'll see if it works. We have an 11-cylinder engine, and these are the cylinders. And so all of these is basically my kitchen compost. I go through 5 gallons of kitchen scraps every day, and everything else goes inside here. And then I harvest them, and I spread them around my property. First, the scraps go in here, all the weeds from the garden go in here. So everything that gets used and doesn't get used goes back in here, gets turned into fertilizer, and then goes back onto the garden. So everything gets used. This was the very first area that I planted, and I planted 5 banana trees here, and it turned into this. In another couple of days I'll harvest this. This is another mini Olivangelo. That's a year and a half older than that one. This is a wild spinach that I freaking give away by the sacks non-stop. Every weekend I harvest this and give it away to people. But it grows like a bugger. And
how did it get there?
I just dropped a piece. That's what it looks like. This is, I don't know what they call this, Malabar spinach, New Zealand spinach. And these are all, so what I'll do is if anybody wants any of this, I just give them a plant. They can take this home, stick it in the ground,
Yep.
and in a matter of a month they got this.
Yep.
And they can eat this forever. These are the food plants that we should be planting.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know, all this fancy stuff. We should be planting things that grow easily. And we should be encouraging community gardens and encouraging the state of Hawaii to, when they take a park, to plant fruit trees on the park. And when the Department of Hawaiian Homeland starts to build houses in Kealakehe for the Hawaiians, they should put an ulu tree on every single property and make it illegal to cut it down. That's how you get food growing. And when you're importing 90% of your food, and you look at what's happening in the world today, and if you can't figure out that something's going to screw up soon, you're deaf, dumb, and blind, because something's going to screw up soon. And when it does, we are SOL here in Hawaii, because they don't care about us. We got to care about us. And this is how we do it, is growing our own bloody food. Okay, and so this was the whole thing that I wanted to start with, the ohana. So this is a little bit of kalo. I don't plant a ton of kalo, but this is my little kalo patch. These are all new plants. These are all new plants. These I haven't harvested yet. 1, 2, 3. And so if you look at this, come here with your camera, you can see that there's a mother plant. That's the mama right there. This is a mama right here. And around the mama are their babies. And these are called oha. And these are what you plant. This is how hard planting taro is. So get ready for sweating, okay? You take a pick. You take the huli. Stick it at the bottom of the hole with this nice big fat worm. This guy right here, we'll put down there with him. And you put a little bit of soil around it just to hold it up, just like that. And what'll happen is this thing will grow and grow and grow, and it'll come out of the soil, and it'll grow and be big. And all of this, you saw how long that took to plant. You can plant this whole patch in an hour. This will feed you for a month. 1 hour of work. That's what it's all about. It's not about this being hard. It's about staying focused. And staying focused on the small things. Because sustainability starts small. I think I'm going to have to make a t-shirt.